The Chicago Bears entered the offseason with one of their biggest needs along the interior offensive line. So what do? They traded for Joe Thuney, they traded for Jonah Jackson, and Dalton, a move that you were begging for all offseason, happened. They signed that guy right there, Drew Dalman, to a 3-year, $42 million deal, making him the second highest paid center in the NFL, only behind Creed Humphrey. Do you think it's money well spent?
Absolutely. I think, look, the first focus is going to be on, pass protection. They had to replace all 3 starters on the offensive line. They got 3 really good players, right? Jonah Jackson with his previous connection in Detroit with Ben Johnson, right? Joe Thuney has been arguably the best pass protecting guard of the last half decade. That's great. But, they got those 2 guys first, and then there was a lot of talk about maybe drafting somebody like Will Campbell or getting a younger kid to play center, right? Because that was the one spot to fill out. But I think the idea behind Ben Johnson going to sign Drew Dalman isn't just that you're getting any old center, right? First of all, he's a really good player, but second of all, he wanted Drew Dalman specifically with his skill set. Now, again, the talk is going to be about pass protection and protecting Caleb Williams and opening up those windows. But you make a quarterback's life easier, just like Ben Johnson's done in Detroit for several years. You got to run the football. And that's actually my favorite part of Drew Dalman's game. And we're going to explain why he's such a perfect fit coming from Atlanta to Chicago in Ben Johnson's system.
So you mentioned before, obviously, Drew Dalman, one of the best centers in the NFL, and outside zone specifically as well. But how does this help Caleb Williams? That's the whole big talk about Chicago right now. How does this help your second-year quarterback, your former number 1 overall pick at quarterback? You have a great run game, but also he's a really good pass protecting center as well.
Absolutely. So what it is you take that pressure off of a young guy, right? Williams, we know he's supremely talented, right? But even as young as he is you don't often get guys, say like what Jaden Daniels did in Washington, where you can throw everything on his plate at once. So if you have the running game going right, you can relieve some of that pressure. You don't need Caleb to drop back 45 times. You could do it something like 30 to 35 and be efficient about it and have a balanced offense, right? So that's what they're trying to build here. And let's get into a little bit of why Drew Dalman fits in with Ben Johnson's system so well, right? So what you're talking about is 2 systems that Dalman would run either under Arthur Smith or under Zach Robinson this past year in Atlanta, and Ben Johnson's in Detroit feature the heavy outside zone stretch run game, right? We talk about this a lot with the Shanahan tree as well. Johnson didn't come from the Shanahan tree, but he believes in this style of running the football. And here's what makes Drew Dalman so unique. Look at this list of offensive linemen. This is over the last 3 years. Since 2022, the best outside zone blocking offensive lineman, not just centers, offensive lineman in the league. Trent Williams, future Hall of Famer. Chris Lindstrom, possibly a future Hall of Famer. Frank Ragnow, one of the best centers in football. We'll get to that in a second. Penei Sewell, maybe the best tackle in football now. And there's Drew Dalman sitting right below possibly 4 future Hall of Famers. And which of these names to me do you think, considering this situation, sticks out the most among this list?
I look at that guy right there, Frank Ragnow.
That guy right there, Frank Ragnow, the best outside zone blocking center in the NFL over the past 3 years, of course, under Ben Johnson in Detroit. He wanted somebody, and he found somebody who he thinks could emulate what Frank Ragnow did in Detroit's offense. Now he's got Drew Dalman to do it in Chicago's offense. So we're going to run some clips here, a handful of outside zone clips. Now, again, the Falcons under Arthur Smith, under Zach Robinson, very good at this. Dalman, look, he's a former 5th-round pick. But because he has this skill specifically, this is what's made him a star in the NFL. So we're going to draw some things up here, of course. That's always the fun part. Here we go. Outside zone look, as basic as it can get. 4 down defensive linemen, right? We're going outside zone to the right here. So here's what's going to happen. The entire idea of it is we want to get as far outside as we possibly can, okay? And when somebody crosses Bijan Robinson's face, then he's going to cut it up, right? So here's what's going to, ideally, on any outside zone play, if you can get to the corner, fantastic. Here's how this is going to get set up. Caleb McGarry, look, we've got Jadeveon Clowney selling out outside. You're not breaking contain on me, right? Fine. McGarry's going to go out and pretty much just kick him out, and we still have a ton of space to work with, right? Now, what I want you to watch is the action, and we're going to get to more shots of this in a second, the action of Chris Lindstrom, who is also on that list, so Drew Dalman knows how to make these combo blocks, all right? Chris Lindstrom is going to get a hand on this defensive tackle here, and then he's going to climb up to the linebacker. The idea for Dalman, and this is where a smaller player, a later round pick like Dalman, can succeed in a system like this. It is not about blowing guys 10 yards off the ball all the time, just pushing them back onto the sled, right? It's about creating angles. It's about getting here. So he's got a little help from Lindstrom, and he's got to get across, and all he's got to do is cross his face and wall it off right there. And you can see already pre-snap, where are we looking? if Contain's going to be out here with Clowney, we're going to be talking about Bijan cutting it up in here, right? That's the theory, okay? And then you get everything on the backside. Matt Bergeron will get up to linebacker. We've got Jake Matthews. He's done it for so many years. See how everybody's reaching? That's all we're trying to do is create a lane somewhere from outside in. Now, if we go out here, and I just have to get this going here to the next slide. Okay, you can see where this starts to develop. Now, we look at the way it was starting to set up. Like I mentioned, I want you to notice a couple of things here. I mentioned McGarry. Okay, we're going to kick out. That looks right like we talked about, right? See this left hand of Chris Lindstrom here? Helping out Dalman, helping get that reach. Because when you're talking about that D tackle was on Lindstrom's inside shoulder, that's a tough block to make, first of all, with or without help. They execute it well. We're looking pretty good. Lindstrom's got his eyes on the linebacker. You start to see the hole open up. Now, what I want you to notice, though, with Dalman, even though he had a little bit of help, it wasn't a ton, look how far he's gotten. Look at his helmet getting on the outside shoulder already of this defensive tackle. And if you notice, Bijan doesn't even have the ball yet. This is how quick, if we had video, it would show it a little better, but watch the end zone cam. If you have NFL Plus or anything like that, of how quickly Drew Dalman gets out of his stance and gets where he needs to be. This isn't about power. It's about athleticism and agility, right? So you're talking about now, again, Bijan's going to see this before he even gets the ball going. You can already see the lane opening up, right? Now we're getting at, okay, move here. And I want you to see the linebacker. Look at Lindstrom's block here. The linebacker already, he's selling out so as to not let Bijan outside, right? Okay, fine. You want to cross my face? We'll take you right out here. Cool. McGarry in here. He's got it sealed up enough. And the whole reason you have this big gaping hole right here for Bijan to make a 20-yard run, which he does. Look, Bijan Robinson, one-on-one with a free safety. Good luck. Right? One of the best backs in football. Now, we can talk about later which backs this may or may not be for the Chicago Bears later. That's a draft conversation. But either way, the entire reason that this hole really is open, even though we've got guys selling to the outside, is because now look at Drew Dalman with the full seal here. Full seal. He's not even advanced past the line of scrimmage, but because he created this angle, you've got the Red Sea here for a 20-yard run for Bijan. He's getting up here one-on-one with a free safety. Not even fair at that point. So when you talk about, okay, executing the combo blocks with the help of Lindstrom, that's step one. Step two, something I want to look at now. His ability to solve problems in this, okay? Again, you have a similar look, right? We've got our defensive tackle here. Okay, in theory, what I want to do again is help and then climb, right? My problem is, for Lindstrom, I've got a linebacker sitting down outside of me here. So anybody head up or inside here is Lindstrom has to worry about, right? That's somebody Chris Lindstrom has to worry about. So now, with an alert with the linebacker and another linebacker behind it that we still have to worry about later, or Bijan's going to have to beat him in a hole. Okay, it's going to be the same thing. Outside zone, stretch to the right, get as far out as we can. When somebody crosses our face, we cut it up, okay? Here's what's going to happen. Because there's a linebacker, we have to alert this. Lindstrom cannot help on this defensive tackle. That means it's all on Dalman, even though it's in a inside shoulder technique here from the D tackle. 2-eye. He's got to get all the way out there by himself. Can he do it? Well, the grades tell me he can do it. Let's find out in a second. Lindstrom's going to have to alert to this linebacker. McGarry's going out to the edge again. These are the problems. The Giants know this is coming. They should be able to stop this. Do they? Well, they got a chance. They have a chance, but look how quickly Drew Dalman moves. This is what I want you to see. Still, look again. Bijan doesn't even have the football yet. He's just now getting the football. And Drew Dalman's helmet is already on this side, sealing this off. And this time he had no help from Lindstrom. None at all. Lindstrom, the linebacker, dove inside. He seals him. That's where we're getting to. McGarry here is to the outside on the right. And again, we see that same bubble of space, right, at least giving us a chance. It's a little more clogged. It's not a free safety. It'll be a linebacker with Bijan Robinson, but that's what makes the running back so valuable, right? Is all of a sudden, okay, you got him in the hole one-on-one. And we solved this problem. And I'm telling you, it might sound simple, but there's not that many centers in the league that can get to this block from where we were. Think about previously. Okay, back to the original shot here. He's got to get all the way to this inside shoulder by himself with no help this time. The fact that he's one of the few centers in football that's able to do that gives me a chance even when problems present themselves numbers-wise. Now we get here, and again, Look where Dalman is. Look where Lindstrom is. You've got the full seal here. That's perfect. You could not ask for any better. And again, it's not about driving guys off the ball. It's about sealing them and creating this lane. Now, have we done this? Yes. Is there still a numbers problem? Yes, because here's a free linebacker. But this ends up a 7-yard run. Why? Because, again, Dalman and Lindstrom here have sealed this alley and given Bijan a chance, even with a free runner at the second level, right? Last thing I have to show you with Dalman. Max, I don't know if you've heard me say this on our shows before, NFL show, college show. Good offensive lineman block on the first level, as you just saw in those two plays. Where do great offensive linemen block?
Second level.
Second level. We're trying to get up. Now, same thing. It's going to be outside zone to the right. We're going to the weak side this time. I found this play as a good example. I don't know what the Bucs are doing aligned all on the left here, but clearly they're afraid of the strong side, so fine. We're going to go weak side. Similar principle. Now we're going to talk about Drew Dalman with this combo here and getting to the second level. So what's he going to do? He's going to get a left hand here on the D tackle, and he's going to climb up here into Devin White. Devin White's going to flow this way. That's where we're going to climb. We're going to get here, and we're going to get here on the outside. In a different way again. You see, even though we're in the pistol this time, straight back, but that same bubble opens up for us. If we can get outside, cool. The edge player's too far outside, we'll start working it back in when guys start crossing face. Here we go again. Look, all right, here's the help. There's the combo right there that I was talking about. Drew Dalman, Matt Bergeron. Help him out. Look at his helmet. Look at his eyes right there. Still looking at Devin White. He knows he's got to climb. He's got to get there. And we know Devin White is fast, right? He can book it out here. He's got to cut him off and get there to give us a chance to get on this second level. We've got the seal outside, and we're eventually going to get Lindstrom getting up to this linebacker here, right? Again, look how quickly he's moving. Tyler Algier doesn't even have the football yet, and we're already eyes up on a linebacker looking to get there. Last shot, second level. Here we go. Huge gaping hole again. Edge is set. We're good. Lindstrom's on one linebacker because he was at open space available to get there. And look again at the climb. First, two things happen, and this is both because of Dalman. Bergeron gets the full seal right in here, out of the play. Pretty much anybody on the backside of this play is now gone. And then it's just about Drew Dalman versus Devin White. Squares him up. We get a cutback right in here, about a 12, 13-yard run. Once he works him downfield, White continues to try to gain space. But either way, at that point, once you have him squared up like this, if you're Drew Dalman, that's when you start driving people off the ball, right? When you get up to these linebackers, you make it difficult. And again, explosive run after explosive run in the Atlanta Falcons offense happened, not just because they have an all-pro in Chris Lindstrom and a really good unit, but because Drew Dalman in the middle of it opens up these types of cutback lanes and the lanes that you saw in the previous plays when we can't get all the way outside.
The fact that he could get to one of the fastest linebackers in the NFL, Devin White, the second level, is absolutely ludicrous. Don, I want to put you on the spot for this one question right here. It seems like the Ben Johnson takeover has happened for pretty much the entire offense, right? They have the quarterback in Caleb Williams. They got the receivers in Roma Dunes and DJ Moore. The offensive lineman just went over, is completely rebuilt now as well. Cole Kmet's a pretty good tight end. The one position they're not at least set at is running back. Which running back, maybe at number 10 overall, maybe at day 2 of the NFL draft, I'm thinking Ashton Ginty, Caleb Johnson, the outside zones can probably fit really well. What running backs do you really like to add to this offense?
It's this type of opportunity. And going back to the second play here, I want to get right here again. When you think about, okay, what makes running backs valuable? What makes Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, those guys valuable? The ability when there's nothing left that your offensive lineman can do, and they've done a good job here, can you make this guy, this linebacker, miss one-on-one, right? That's the question. There are a lot of backs who could get in this system behind an offensive line like this or like Ben Johnson's building who could succeed, but this is the part, these situations, turning this run from 2 yards into 7, that makes it tempting to take an Ashton Ginty at 10, especially with as much experience as he had in that outside zone game at Boise State. So you're absolutely right. If they choose to go elsewhere, defense somewhere else with the 10th overall, Caleb Johnson would be a great pick for them in the second round. Travion Henderson, I think, is another back who could very much get north and south and get in here and do this. But this is going to be the temptation because we saw it this past year, right? What great running backs can do for an offense. Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs for the Packers, right? When you have guys that can make this last guy miss, and even the previous play, when you have a free safety one-on-one with your back, you're talking about an opportunity to take an elite talent, get him in the space he needs, and make people miss.
Well, as we just saw right there, Bijan Robinson, one of the best running backs in the NFL, but a running back is only as good as his offensive line, and the Bears completely rebuilt their offensive line this offseason, trading for Joe Thuney, trading for Jonah Jackson, and signing one of the best centers in the NFL, Drew Dalman.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.